Good morning, dear students. Today, our session is about elements of the story. It's a writing session. Now, before writing any type of a story or any narrative, you have to know exactly the elements of the story. Now, you have to be ready with your booklet, and this is already the PowerPoint presentation, and you will find the PDF file attached on the school website. Now, the assignment will be mentioned in the last slide. Now, here are the objectives of this session. First of all, you will identify the key elements of the story. Use questioning to identify and explain the text elements as to fit together to provide story structure and engage effectively in collaborative discussion. So you are going to identify the key elements and you are going to ask yourself some questions as to identify and explain what sort of elements I have to use in writing my story. And then you have to use this link. It's very important. You will like it so much. So you can even make a pause now and copy this link on YouTube and start to watch it. You are going to know as a starter in the beginning to watch the elements of the story in a sort of a video. Okay? So you can make pause and then start to watch the YouTube link in order to follow up with me and to know exactly what do I mean by the elements of the story. Hey, welcome back. Now, after watching the YouTube, we are going to discuss it in details in the slides of this PowerPoint presentation. And then finally, you can even go and watch it again to wrap up what we cover. Okay, now don't forget that you will read the types of characters mentioned and explained in details in the booklet on page 18. Now, the plot chart. Now, before starting even to write down your story, you have to know exactly what's the story that you are going to write about. So, here are the elements be written to you in details and to discuss the meaning of each one of them. Now, in the chart, you have the exposition. What's the meaning of exposition? You can find this even word in one of the questions of reading comprehension or even in your story that you are covering in any term. Now, exposition means the information, the beginning of the story, which means you have the setting, time, place, and so on. Then you have the rising action. Now, rising action, it means that what's going into your mind as a reader, okay? You will find, for example, conflict, and we will discuss the meaning of conflict, the conflict of the characters, and the types of conflicts. Of course, we have the inner conflict, the external conflict. It will get into suspense by actions, by the environment around the character, and so on, until you reach the climax. Now, you know when you watch a movie, for example, in a cinema, so you will find a climax that is the problem that lets you get into a suspense. And then you will find a pause, and then they said that we will continue after a break. So this is the climax. You will get into an extreme excitement and suspense part of the story. And then after that, after being in such that high way or high standard of being excited and in suspense, there should be a falling action. Falling action, it means that this part of the story is totally different from the beginning. In the beginning, it was with a lot of types of conflicts and problems and so on. And now there is a beginning of solving the problem, and you have a lot of ways of solving the problem, but it's not solved yet. Falling action means that you will get into the mood to slow down instead of being in high tense all the time. So here you will find like ways of solutions, and the roles of the characters that are around the main hero, for example, are very important because they will play a very essential and crucial role in order to solve and to give some types of solutions to the character or to the main hero of the character until we find the resolution at the end. The resolution, it means how does this part of the story make you as a reader feel? What else could the writer have done? So, for example, what about the happy ending? What about you? Okay, what about, for example, the reader? You, as you are reading, you are going to feel excited. You will be happy as if it was a happy ending, but you are not going to say your own emotions. You are going to express the emotions or the feelings or the reaction of the character at the end, as he ended it up by being happy, living, for example, in peace, okay, being in a peaceful mood, okay. The character getting or the heroine, she was already having now like two children in a cozy place or in a cozy home. They went back to their, for example, hometown, and so on. So of course, by describing the feeling of the character, you as a reader will be affected by the reaction, and this is the end of the story. This is the plot chart, which is important to draw it in order to put down your ideas in chronological order or in sequence. Now let's start now with every single element in detail. Now a lot of students, they get confused between the word plot and theme. Now theme means the main idea of the story. Like exactly when you watch a movie, and then at the end I'm going to ask you, yeah, what's the theme of the movie? You will tell me that it's about technology, it's about friendship, it's about, for example, advantages and disadvantages of using mobiles, something like that. This is the theme, the main idea. But the plot is a little bit different. Plot, it means that how the author arranges all the events of the story in order, in chronological order. So how the plot is planned, how all of it being in series of events, having beginning, middle, and end. And that's why you have this section in the rubric of writing when the teacher give you the mark of text structure, because we want to know exactly if you start to go up and down and up and down and so on, or you did everything in chronological order. You can use, of course, some flashback memory, okay, in the middle when the character started to think about something that happened to him in the past. So he will remember a wise saying words that was said by his father or grandfather. Then you will write it in quotation marks. So that's like in order to make different style of writing and use it as one only time as a kind of suspense, or even to make something different. Now the short story usually has one plot, so it can be read in one sitting, and here are the 5 essential parts of plot. First of all, open page 36 in the booklet, and you are going to find the plot and climax. Okay, so you can keep it in front of you, and I will explain now the meaning in detail of the word exposition, rising action, okay, conflict, and everything in detail. Now, first of all, exposition. Exposition means introduction, the beginning of the story, characters, background, setting revealed, I mean time and place. Then you have the rising action. After that, you have the events in the story become complicated and the conflict is revealed. So these are events between introduction and climax. What do I mean by conflict? You cannot separate something called rising action and other thing that's called conflict. Of course, no. Because when I say that there is a rising action here, it means that because of the conflict of the character or the fighting and the struggle that the character faced outside him, so this arouse the rising action. Okay, it makes everything getting into complicated one. So Conflict. It's essential to plot. Opposition ties incidents together and moves the plot. Okay, what do I mean by conflict? Conflict means that you have a struggle, okay, that the character faces uh, between, for example, two different inner feelings, between being good or bad, between thinking of doing something good or evil, between him and the outsider, okay, outsider conflicts or outsider fightings. And we have a lot of types of conflicts. For example, and this you are going to find it on pages 31 and 32, by the way, in the booklet. You have internal struggle, like for example, a struggle on oneself, okay, a person who is struggling inside himself, okay, and then you have character versus self. I mean, struggles with the own soul, physical limitations, choices. You are torn between, getting this or that. Like, for example, when you have put right or wrong, so you are in between two types of choices. Yes, no. Okay? Cheat or not cheat. Okay? When you say, for example, to say the truth or to hide it, and so on. So, this is the meaning of struggle with his own soul. So I say character versus self. Okay, this is the type of internal struggle. I have another type which is external. So what's the meaning of external? External means outside him. So he has a struggle with another one who is outside him, like another evil. Do you remember when we took the meaning or the difference between protagonist and antagonist? When I have a main hero, the good one, and the antagonist who is the opponent of him, so this is the meaning of external struggle between him, okay, and the other one, character versus character. Now I have character versus nature. So for example, he can make a struggle, or he could face a struggle against animal or weather, when it's for example hurricane or like tempest, okay, or the environment. Character versus society, struggles against ideas, okay. So for example, when all the people around him, they have their own customs and traditions, he has his own one. So this is character versus society. So you are not going to, of course, to mention the type of the conflict while you are writing the story, but you will keep in your mind when you are choosing, for example, the type of character and the struggle that he's going to face. So when you start to write a legend, you will choose the other character that he's going to fight with. Or if it's a myth, you're going to find the animal that he will face and struggle with, and so on. Climax. Climax means a turning point of the story. So readers wonder what will happen next. Now, will the conflict be resolved or not? Consider the climax as a threefold phenomenon. What does it mean? I have three types of climax. You can bear it to your mind, because this is a turning point, as I said, of the story. So main character receives new information. Okay, so for example, the character was kind and decent, and his even mood and his static way of his life was clear from the beginning of the story, and nothing could change his mood or change his style of life until he received a message. So this is the meaning of receiving new information. And from this message and from this point, everything was totally different from upside down. Okay, so this means that this is the turning point or the climax. You can also have a main character accepts this information, realizes it, but doesn't necessarily agree with it. Maybe, for example, he knew a new piece of information about a new virus that happened, but he couldn't even, or occurred in his society, but he didn't want even to accept it. He realized it, but he didn't want to accept it, of course. Okay, and he didn't agree with it, but he was struggling a lot and a lot after finding one of the closest friend passed away. So he started now to at least get affected, and he started to realize something new. And from that time, everything was totally different in his life. I have a main character acts on this information, makes a choice that will determine whether or not objective is met. So he acts on this information, and he starts now, okay, to have a meeting with another type of information, or for example, he's not going to complete on such that way. So this is the meaning. This is the meaning of the climax that will turn point, okay, of the character in the story and turn everything upside down. I have falling action. Falling action, we said the resolution begins. There are some ways or some beginning, okay, of I have some, for example, some examples. So again, the falling action, it means that the resolution begins, and we have the role of the other characters that can help to solve the problem of the main hero or the main character. So all the events, complications start to fall into place, start to have a way of solution. Finally, the resolution, which means the conclusion, the final outcome of events in the story. So the final outcome of events, it means, what about the ending of the story? Will it be happy ending, sad ending, mix between them? Okay, so this is the final one. Now, what's the meaning of create a movie storyboard? Now, this is to wrap up our slideshow. When I say a plot chart can help you visualize the major events in the structure of a story, I mean that when you say what's the importance of this plot chart, what's the importance of it, and you are going to find it, of course, on page 38 in your booklet. So this means that you are going to visualize the major events in the structure. Okay, so by creating it, you can see the structure of the story, how it goes. Okay, how it goes here. Is it, for example, did you write down the setting? Okay, the exposition. Now, did you write down, for example, the rising action, the complications that you can find? One of them is the conflict, protagonist versus antagonist. Okay, do I have a climax? And it should be, of course, there. What about the plot? What about the following action, the resolution? Okay, all of this you have to think about it before writing down your story. Now, read the topic and try to use the chart, okay, to organize your ideas and write your essay. Now, you are going to find on page 38 a topic. This topic is about a time when you felt disrespected. Disrespected means that there is an incident or an event that happened to you, and you find that the other people, or for example, other neighbor or other friend disrespected you. So how did you handle this? And who helped you in order to handle it? And what did you learn at the end? Okay, so thank you very much for listening, and don't forget the assignment to be sent on the school website. Thank you. Till we meet again.